Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to my channel. My name is Kristen. I am so happy that you stopped by today. Hopefully you will find something that inspires you to pick up a book or maybe something even specific that appeals to you. I had a pretty good reading month in the month of October, and I'm excited to share it about you. I, as always, will hold up each book as I talk about it so that way you can scroll through the reviews to find the one that you're interested in. I start with my classics. I do have a goal that continues to read at least one classic a month. I was thinking about it. There's so many good classics out there. I'm probably going to be doing this for several more years, but that's okay because I really enjoy it. The first one I read was Wilkie Collins' The Frozen Deep. It is one that I picked up at Powell's bookstore on my Oregon trip and pretty much read instantly. It's a very short book. It is between two gentlemen who are kind of having an angsty struggle over a woman, and they both end up on an Arctic, like as an Antarctic expedition that goes wrong. And so it's this kind of struggle of all these relationships. I don't want to give anything away because it's super short book, but it's really, really good. And the thing that I shared that was so fascinating was Wilkie Collins actually performed this as a play himself with Charles Dickens, and they were the two main characters, and Charles Dickens was so inspired by that character that it actually became the main character in Tale of Two Cities. So little trivia, geeky knowledge, but I love Wilkie Collins and I love that book, so big thumbs up. The next one classic I read was The Tenant of Wildfell Hall. This is a Bronte book. It's Anne Bronte, and I am slowly reading through the Bronte sisters novels. I have not read Pride and Prejudice or Jane Eyre. I'm kind of saving those. I have read Sense and Sensibility and Persuasion and a couple others, but so far this one's my favorite. I read Wuthering Heights, I think just last month. This one, though, is my favorite. I really like the format of this, and I like the story. There's the first part's told through the eyes of a gentleman who there's a mysterious woman and her child living in Wildfell Hall, right? Wildfell Hall. Make sure I'm saying it right. And then the whole middle section of the book is her journal about how she got there, who she is, what's going on, and then the book concludes back to his perspective. And I really appreciated it because she was a super strong woman who dealt with some very difficult people, some very narcissistic kind of, not evil, but difficult to deal with people. And she was strong back. She did not take any of that. But I also appreciated this because it's not a simple romance. It's not one of your light, fluffy, romantic reads, which you know I also appreciate those. But this one was very real and gritty, and it doesn't all end happily ever after necessarily. So I will leave it at that. And if you're interested in that, it's still that romantic kind of what I always call the Downton Abbey. I feel like I'm reading Downton Abbey when I read Bronte sisters. So that was good. I think that one's the best one so far. Next, I read Educated. This is by Tara Westover. It is a nonfiction memoir of her life, and she grew up kind of in a home that was very strict and religious, and she wasn't allowed a lot of contact or education with the outside world. They kind of lived very off their own land. They believed that, in fact, the world was going to end any day, and they were preparing. And this is also over the time frame of that 1999 and what's going to happen in the year 2000 and all that kind of goodness. And then she comes into opportunities to explore and reach out and discover things, and it's just kind of her journey through that whole process and just kind of pushing the envelope and how different people in her family responded to her or responded to their opportunities. So it's very interesting, very fascinating, and I really liked her. I really liked her voice and liked the story. Then on to the fiction. I read Love Walked In by Marissa Del Los Santos, and this was on my to be read list for a couple years. I originally put this on my wish list at Amazon way back when Real Simple magazine said it was a great summer read, at least 2 summers ago, I think maybe even 3 summers ago. And so by this time it's, you know, pretty inexpensive used copy, and so I just ordered it because I thought, gosh, it's been on there a long time, I might as well read it. And to be honest, I did not finish this book. I always have a goal to read at least 50 pages, so I read over that, and it's between 2 characters, the young woman and kind of the older woman, and I stopped reading right before their paths cross, so I might pick it back up later. But I just really, particularly the older woman, I had a really hard time. It's told in that where it breaks the fourth wall, you know, where you know the author is talking to you and kind of having a chit chat with you, but it just seemed really chaotic and confusing, and I was having trouble connecting, and I didn't really necessarily like that character so much. The young girl I was somewhat interested in, but just overall, I thought there are so many books out here that I really, really want to read right now. I'm just going to table this one for a while, and maybe I'll come back to it, and maybe not. We'll see, because I want to read Vicious by V E Swabb. So this seemed like it was a perfect October read. 2 college students that are exploring with kind of the whole superhero notion. Can you actually create supernatural powers and kind of adrenaline and near death and all these kind of things, and it kind of gets really messed up and really wrong, and they're kind of at each other and trying to navigate life, because these are very young, hormonal, let's just be honest, men, you know, college boys doing all their things. So anyway, I loved it. I loved the way it was told. I really appreciated the side characters. I loved how the chapters were defined by the time, and I'm always appreciative of that. I'm a real nerd about time and trying to keep track of it and what caused this, and you know, I like the good character development and stuff. So it had enough of that in there without being too gory or graphic or detailed when the really scary kind of physical scenes needed to happen. So this is a series. I will be picking up the next one. So totally give that a thumbs up for the month. I also read The Chaperone by Moriarty. I thought it was Leanne who wrote Big Little Lies, but it's not. I just picked it up because it was alphabetical, and I thought this was an author I knew, and this is a new author, and it was a super happy accident because I really like this author too. This is a story of a woman in her 30s who becomes a chaperone for a young girl who is trying to make it big on Broadway, and she's trying to keep her out of trouble, but this is not an easy thing to do because the girl is up to trouble. And more so, you're really into the story of the 36-year-old and why she has other motives to kind of be going to the big city and to be getting away from her small town and trying to unlock her past and her background. And that's really, it was really, I'm going to check out this author's other books because I really like this one. I also had a super good fiction month because I love this book too. The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And this is by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This has gotten a lot of press and a lot of people talking about it on BookTube. And I agree. I don't think it was overhyped at all. I really, again, enjoyed this. It was basically a woman who is a movie star at the end of her life, and she has had 7 husbands, and the world wants to know, and she's going to give her notes or memoir to a young writer, and we're not really sure why. She's not even sure why, and she's writing all these notes and learning all these things, and it's just really real and honest and kind of poignant. And you know, again, I love the good character development, so it's all about not only the character of Evelyn, who's developing and kind of reflecting on her life and not really having any regrets, but wanting to go ahead and share that with the world, and then this young woman who's also wrestling with kind of more coming to age in that stage of life and comparing herself and taking some inspiration from Evelyn and her story. So this was a fantastic book. And I have to say, out of the 7 books that I picked up and read this month, that I think you're going to see a lot of those or at least a good few of them, in a couple months when I do my top books for the year. So I was just super blessed this month. I look forward to November. It is nonfiction November in the BookTube world. There is a challenge. There's 4 different words. The challenge is only to pick up one nonfiction book and read it, add it. If you normally read nonfiction, then add one more. The categories in it are design, sport, truth, and voice. And however you want to interpret those, you can interpret them that way. Now, I've only got 3 books that I'm going to read, nonfiction books. So I'm going to pick 3 of the 4. I think I'm not going to do sport because I just read Ryan Hall's Run the Mile You're In, and that will definitely be one of my top books of the year. So that is going to cover my nonfiction sport book of the year. If you do, though, have a sport nonfiction book that you love, would you put that in the comments? Because I am always interested in that kind of thing. One of my all-time favorite books that I ever read was The Boys in the Boat, about the crewing of the Oregon college team going to the Olympics. So I do appreciate those, but thinking that I'm going to focus on the other 3, and that will be part of my November book reviews. If you enjoy this, please give me the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and come along on the journey with me. Y'all have a blessed day.